Christmas! Welcome to this extra special episode of What's Wrong with Wolfie. I've managed to drag the guys away from their festive celebrations, and you can hear them say a festive hello to you right now. Rich.
Ho, ho, ho! Ha, ha, ha! It was bottom. Come on, you know that
one. Chris?
And then it's traditionally Chris after that.
Christmas is once a year and it's a fraud. From Scrooged, if anyone's interested.
Hello, I'm Steve. Now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
Oh, I should have done that.
That's amazing. Brilliant, guys.
I wasn't prepared for Die Hard because I knew that Rich was going to get there first, but never mind.
I was going to go with Sue Carpenter telling Richie to fick Earth, you sad, pathetic winker, but I'm just on a bottom Christmas special kick at the moment, so
nice.
Bear with me.
Or we could all just do the exchange with the Brussels sprouts in the stocking. Just,
Terry's all gold.
What's this, Eddie? Oh, it's another Brussels sprout.
Hey, Sprout.
Why do we have Christmas? Because it's Christmas.
Oh, shit. Oh. Anyway.
Yeah. I was expecting this to be about a minute long, and it's already about 3. No.
Sick.
Now, this year we wanted to give you, the listener, a gift for you to receive on Christmas Day, and here it is. And we knew we had to get a special person to join us for this, and we were ecstatic when that special someone agreed to join us. That someone is none other than Jeffrey Weissman, who has had a long and prosperous career in acting, including starring alongside Clint Eastwood in Pale Rider, appearing in the Max Headroom TV show, The Twilight Zone, and many other impressive roles. There'll be no surprise that we mostly concentrated on one of his most well-known roles in the interview as George McFly in Back to the Future Part 2 and 3. And Jeffrey was more than happy to tell us as many stories as he possibly could. So if you're listening to this on Christmas Day or on the Christmas break, I hope you've got your festive snacks and drinks ready. And if you're listening to this at any other part of the year, I still hope you have your festive snacks and drinks ready, as it's time to hear from our guest, Mr. Jeffrey Weissman. Well, ladies and gents, it's my absolute honour to introduce you to the legend that is Jeffrey Weissman. Jeff, welcome to the Wolfie Pod.
I'm a legend.
Yeah.
At least I'm a legend in my own mind.
And ours.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah, no, Jeff, thank you so much for taking up some of your time to come and join us for middle-aged men to, come and chat stuff. And we really appreciate it, mate. So thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Okay. Well, as this is our Christmas present to our listeners, we wondered what Christmas Day is like for you in the Weissman household.
I'm a stocking stuffer. Okay. I have always cherished Christmas, even though I've been, because my name, everyone or a lot of people think I'm Jewish, but you're Jewish if your mother is Jewish or you convert or what have you. My mother was raised Methodist and converted to Catholicism. I think she had a nun sister convert her while she was in school, and my father, who came from a Jewish family, I don't even think he was. I don't think he had a bar mitzvah even, but nonetheless, we celebrated Christmas, and I remember from an early age just being mesmerized by we had one of those globes that projected a light with a screen that rotated with the different colors in front of it, and I'd just spend hours and hours watching the colors reflecting off the tree, and couldn't wait to see what Santa brought. And it was all really good until I guess one year that globe that rotated with the different gels in front of the lamp got stuck, and the gel melted, and it was horrible. I think that was the year I learned that maybe Santa Claus was hiding in the hall closet. At least the presents were.
That's two pretty rough things to happen at the same time.
It was very exciting because, okay, I found where he stashed the presents. Now I want to open them, and Christmas is still 10 days away or whatever. It was rough. But no, I've always cherished the holiday season because it's a great time just to celebrate life. I mean, what is life? That's why I became an actor, I think. Try to figure out and affirm life energy and tell stories, and everyone's got a story, and it's so exciting to help people realize their projects and get enlightenment and entertain at the same time. Educate and entertain. That's one of the reasons I do a lot of living history.
I see. Well, Jeff, I mean, before we get onto the actual, or on the topic of your acting, and before we get to the inevitable Back to the Future chat, we wanted to know a little bit more about basically where your journey began with acting and how you got into it.
I don't remember not wanting to be an actor. My family would tell stories about me in my high chair of trying to be the center of attention. I think there was a dinner party where from my high chair I apparently went, shit. Little baby. I could start talking, I think, when I was 16 months old or so, or younger. And everyone dropped their forks. Here it was probably 1962, and the baby said shit, and they were like, Jeffrey, where did you learn such a word? And the farthest person away from me was my big brother Mike, and I said, Mike, and he was like, what? No. And I apparently said, oh, Mikey, I liar. So I mean, this is the story that my family told back to me about my. So I guess I was always on. I remember in grade school, like fourth grade or so, we'd study different periods of history, and I asked the teacher and got approved to do a news broadcast from the different eras that we were studying. Live from the pyramids, here we are with Pharaoh, or tonight in the Colosseum, 100 Christians were thrown to the lions. Whatever. Whenever I could perform what I was learning in class, I would start doing that in school. And then eventually got into talent shows and recited poetry and danced and won a talent show lip syncing "I Got You, Babe," with Sonny and Cher, and just loved the attention. And eventually, I haven't necessarily grown out of my ham bone, but I've learned that I need to take a step back on being the center of attention and give the attention to the storytelling and live the character's life in the story. Wishing that I hadn't tried to please others so much early on in my career, because I went up on many, many big, wonderful projects that I could have rocked. I could have done very well with. But either from my inexperience on auditions of always trying to please others, I think I wasn't, necessarily pleasing myself by knowing, I have to service the story. Instead, I'd get a note, can you do it a little like this, and just be way too big for camera or whatever.
Yeah.
The ones that got away.
So, I mean, what I'm hearing from that, Jeff, is that you got your start in acting by shouting shit as a baby, which is a pretty good start as far as starts go. Yeah,
It's on
And
the
I'm
CV,
still-
so
Still shouting shit.
yeah. It's your first role. That's good. Obviously, you know, you're known for depicting George McFly in Back to the Future 2 and 3. I'm curious, what was it like for you to find out that you had that role?
Yeah, I came in sort of through the back door on that, not through casting. I had worked in Hollywood pretty much since the late 70s and started co-starring in films in 82. And in between movie and television work in about 87, I started playing characters at Universal Studios on the tour, playing Stanley Laurel, Charlie Chaplin, and Groucho Marx. And the agent who had helped me get that job had called me up and asked if I knew who Crispin Glover was. And I said, yeah, we worked together on a film at the American Film Institute in 83 before he got the first Back to the Future film as George. And I remember, staying in touch with him, getting his phone number, and after seeing him in Back to the Future, I remember that summer that it came out, I was in Pale Rider with Clint Eastwood. And I wanted to see what the competition was. And I was a fan already of Mike Fox and Chris Lloyd and Leah Thompson. And I didn't realize Crispin was in that film. And then when he came on the screen, he stole the movie. I thought it was fantastic. And I called him to tell him so. So that was 85. So flash forward to 88. I was in my break room at Universal, and the agent called and asked if I knew who Crispin was. Am I the same height, the same weight? And I was like, no, what's up? He said, well, we're looking for a photo double for a project for him. And I was like, I could use the work. Get me in there. I need to qualify for my medical. My wife was having our second child. I needed to cover the birth, And I remember I even called Crispin. I said, if you remember me, I left on his voicemail, say a good word. I could use the work. And he didn't call me back, but I met with the assistant directors, had a nice interview, and they liked me and liked my resume. And then I was sent to casting, where I did audition with the scene where Marty and George are hanging the laundry in the backyard from the first film. And that went well. And then I started getting sent to makeup for fittings, for appliances, prosthetic appliances for heavy makeup mask wearing, basically. And then body cast fitting for special effects. And then I did a screen test in the young George makeup, the 17-year-old George. I'll show for your viewers at home. That's what that makeup looked like.
Wow.
And it didn't quite look like Crispin from the front, but the profile looked exactly like Crispin. So it was obviously taken from his life mask. And I was figuring that they needed George in multiple places at the same time, like they had with Marty, when he's up on the catwalk over Marty playing Johnny B. Good on stage. So, and I remember at that makeup test, Robert Zemeckis asking Dean Cundy, the cinematographer, what do you think, Dean? And Dean said, I think we have Crispin without the trouble. I was like, what? What is that? And then it was shortly thereafter that Ken Chase, the makeup designer, told me that Crispin was out, that I was going to play George. And I was like, how is that possible? They can't do this without him. And I figured, and had even read in the trades, that Crispin had another project that he couldn't get out of, that the timing wasn't going to work for him. And I was like, this must be heartbreaking for him. How can they do this? But I wasn't going to turn down the work.
No.
so I got, on a Friday late in the day, call from my agent, said they want you as George. And I was like, yeah, I think so. And hold out for good money, which they didn't, nor my billing. I was like, wait a minute. This is the sequel to the highest grossing film of 1985. Hold out for some good stuff for me. But the agents were just very excited, and I think overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So I ended up actually during the shoot asking Zemeckis to consider not giving me anything less than a shared title card, because I had a shared title card on Pale Rider, and I think on Twilight Zone movie I had a co-star credit. Anyway, I was like, and Zemeckis agreed to it. And then later on, Neil Canton and Bob Gale came over to me and said, what are you doing talking to the director about your billing? I was like, well, he agreed. And he goes, you never talk with the director. Oh, they wanted to kill me. I think it was because they really didn't want the public to know that they didn't have Crispin, because, as you know, they spliced my work with close-ups of Crispin from the first film, or outtakes or whatever. And it also was odd being made up to look like him and him not being there. And as we went along, it became obvious to me that they didn't have his permission for use of his life mask in my makeups. At one point, Spielberg, came up to me while I'm in this body cast to do the spin for Pizza, which was cut from the film, and said, "So, Crispin, I see you got your $1 million after all." And I was like, "Oh, he was holding out for $1 million. Oh my God, I'm saving a lot of money." Anyway, I don't think they knew that Crispin, had my number, and he ended up calling me after Part 3 came out and told me all the sad stories that how he was mistreated, he felt on the first film. And of course, during the production, I heard all the stories how badly his behavior was on the first film. So it's, I was in between on this very high profile project. And it was very frustrating for me because I was still not allowed to promote myself, even knowing that the film was coming out and that I had a co-star role. Universal didn't want to give me the photos. They didn't want to. They unplugged a promo tour that I had set already. It was very awkward, very strange. But of course, it became the legal battle between Crispin and Universal, and eventually, with my photos and such, and 17 hours of deposition, he got an out of court settlement for about $750,000.
Wow.
Yes, but the wonderful part for me, even though at the time I was thwarted and the career kind of stalled, I eventually used it as a catalyst to get out of the Hollywood rat race. It was kind of tearing me up, the traffic 24/7 and the horrible politics and the abuse of power that I saw going on. So I ended up leaving Hollywood and doing more independent film elsewhere, and a lot more stage work, and continued in Living History. And in about 95 or 97, somewhere in the mid to late 90s, I got discovered or adopted by the DeLorean owners. I started getting invited to these DeLorean owners conventions and becoming their MC or auctioneer for their fundraising or or their raffles or what have you. And I even performed characters for them, and even taught improvisation comedy workshops. And that was really great. And we did our first Back to the Future cast reunion in 2008 that Mike Fox showed up unannounced, which was really great because he got mobbed by 500 people. It was really, although at the same time it was very moving because Chris Lloyd and Lee Thompson, Mark McClure, Francis Lee McCain, Claudia Wells, and myself, it was the first time any of us, I think, had seen the ravages of Parkinson's on Mike,
Yeah, of course.
Mm.
and it was very hard for us. It was to see how the pain would sort of dictate his movements, and he'd have to walk
Yeah.
away on his toes sometimes. And all. I don't think the therapies at that point yet were. I don't think he had the dopamine replacement stuff yet, or what have you. But nonetheless, it was still Mike. He's a feisty, superhuman being, and
Yeah.
it was really great to see him there and kind of reconnect. And there have been a handful of reunions. Every once in a while get blessed to be invited to a reunion somewhere on the planet.
Amazing.
Every
Right.
project you work on is kind of like a family unit.
Mhm.
You get to get close to some people. Some people, it's dysfunctional. It's like every family. And I've been very lucky on these ensemble projects that I've been a part of. When I worked on George Miller's remake of Nightmare at 20,000 Feet, which I think was renamed Nightmare at 30,000 Feet, the talent that he cast and put together with John Lithgow helming was just so wonderful. We all worked so well together, listening, and the excitement of that shoot was just fantastic. George Miller is a dream director. And then later on with projects like Pale Rider, I got very close very quickly with Carrie Snodgrass and Michael Moriarty and that whole cast ensemble. We were on a location where with the wind chill, it was like 10 below zero, almost for the entire shoot. It was freezing. And we were good company and had stories, trying to keep each other, support each other during this severe weather. I kept saying to Clint, nice weather, Clint, in the blizzard. He goes, yeah, I didn't expect it to be snowing in October. I've been very fortunate and really do well with ensembles that unite. And whenever I get to see cast members from different projects, it's always a beautiful thing.
Do you
That's great.
do you bump into a lot of them on the conventions?
Every once in a while, yeah. Just a couple weeks ago, I don't know if you have it over in the UK. There was a TV series in the mid '80s called The Scarecrow and Mrs. King, and we had the 40th anniversary cast reunion just 2 weeks ago. And seeing Bruce Boxleitner, who you might know from Tron and various other film roles that he's done, TV shows, it was like no time had passed, even though I hadn't seen him in 40 years. It was like, Jeffrey, tell me what you've been up to, and was he signing for these 60 fans that were just in heaven because they, are just dedicated to that series. Every once in a while, I'd run into Jeffrey Tambor from Max Headroom when I played his assistant on an episode called Rakers, and Jeffrey's crazy. Every time I meet him, I've got to reintroduce myself. I go, what's your name again? Oh yes. And I said, Jeffrey, remember we went to the same university and had the same professor, and we held up production doing imitations of him. And he goes, oh yes, of course. You're Jewish? No, but he said, no, yes, be Jewish. I was like, okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Yeah. Anyway, it's always fun to. Mostly always fun to run into folk that I've worked with and count the blessings.
Yeah. Speaking of working with people, what was your first experience like on set? Like, awkwardness aside, obviously they'd worked with Crispin a few years before. What do you remember much of your first day or experiences?
Sure. Well, first of all, to get on set, I had to go through 4 hours of a makeup application first. So if I had to be on set by 9 a.m., I had to be in the makeup chair by 4 in the morning, because you'd get the appliances glued on and then take a 30-minute, 40-minute break for breakfast, and then come back and get painted in the wig, applied, and then costume, and so we could be ready to shoot at 9. Now, during the first, I believe the first stuff we shot was during the day, at the Enchantment Under the Sea dance. And then immediately the week after or so, we shot the recreating the fight in the parking lot with Biff, knocking Biff out and all. And that was all night. So to be ready to go by 8 p.m. whenever is dark, we be in the makeup chair by 3. Because Mike was finishing up the last season of Family Ties during the day, we were shooting all night and on the weekends when we had him. And sometimes the hours were up to 26-hour-long days.
Wow.
Oh,
pretty
my
grueling.
God.
How much coffee was there involved in this endeavor?
We were mainlining coffee, yes.
I bet. Yeah.
They didn't like getting me down when we were doing the futuristic stuff, the 2015 McFly household. They had George in this ortholev hanging upside down. And a lot of, I guess, urban legend has developed around that. Oh, they hung him upside down because they wanted to obscure it was a different actor, which is not true.
Wow. Okay.
The ortholev was in the script well before I came on the project. In one version I have in the Paradox script, which is 2 and 3 in the same script, they even have Marty in the ortholev. I think it was that they didn't know whether or not they had even a George. And then apparently on the first film, Crispin, because he's so into his role, would often underhit or overhit his marks because he's so up in his head or whatever. So his marks are for focus for the camera, and he would miss those marks. So I think the Bob said, well, we can control him if we can put him in some device because his back went out.
And move him where they need
I
him.
see.
So that's the story behind that. The first day on set for me was like going to work. You would it's new and exciting, and a lot of wonderful people got to meet the crew finally, and people were looking at the makeup, of course, and going. I remember Mike Fox going, "Crispin ain't gonna like this," I was like, "Oh, great." And it was awkward for me at times because I was referred to by Bob Z and others as Crispin, and it was like, and I finally put my foot down. I went over to Bob and I said, "Why are you calling me Crispin? What?" And he goes, "Okay." And so then he'd start either saying Leah for action, or
So, was that almost like a cover up for people listening on set? Were they trying to rouse people, like to think you were Crispin? Is that? It's a weird thing, isn't it? It's weird.
It is weird. I can't answer for Robert Zemeckis. It was. I bet you it was awkward for him. I think it was awkward for everyone because once, as I said, Crispin was so good in the first film.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people got very close. He and Leah would rehearse for hours together. They did a painting together. That was one of the complaints, that he and Leah had created this volcano painting or something, and he brought it into the set and said, "I want this to be on the wall of the McFly home." And Zemeckis was like, "I got an art director. I can't step on his toe." No. And so he threw a fit.
Yeah.
He is an eccentric artist, and I understand. I was friendly with him, so I kind of was his advocate for understanding his desires, but for the professionalism and the state of, read the room, buddy. it's you're on a high profile, big budget movie that has each department is responsible for the different things. It's not a collaborative student film or indie production that you're co-producing or something. You were a support player. So it was interesting to hear all the stories from both sides. As I said, that he claimed a producer made him cry in front of extras at one point, or they cut his hair without his permission when he fell asleep in the makeup chair. His power's in his hair. Look, my power's in my hair now.
You look fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, from what you're saying, Crispin is very much like father, like son. He's very much like Bruce by the sounds of it, physically and personality-wise.
Interesting you should say that. A couple of years ago, I kind of got fed up. I was like, why is Crispin always now he's poo-pooing my performance, which is understandable. I didn't get a lot to do, and I was rushed in the 11th hour, and not even included in any readings or stage rehearsals. But nonetheless, I tried calling Crispin and just to say, you never thanked me for my help getting your settlement. You never, and now you're poo-pooing my work. Why don't you lay off? And his dad picked up the phone, and I said, "What do you? Can you talk to your boy?" And he goes, "No, I just recommend that you take that credit off your resume." I was, "Thank you, Bruce."
Thanks for your support.
Yeah.
Lovely.
I helped your boy get $750,000. You're welcome. Good guy.
Yeah.
But it is understandable for him to be bitter, I think, because he poured his life and art into that role, and it helped make that film as wonderful as it is, and has never really wanted to do anything with it since, except sort of attack Bob Gale, which is kind of understandable. So, what I cherish is being a part of it. I mean, I pinch myself that I was even there. And I love the reunions. I love, I can call Chris Lloyd and have lunch with him when I'm in town where he lives.
Wow.
Thanks, Chris. Or when I see Leo, it's always very warm. There was the yellow journalism out there trying to stir up trouble. Was used a quote when I was very bitter about finding out about the mess. I kind of complained in an interview that Leah couldn't remember my name when introducing me to her mother, and that little bit was picked out and used as a meme that has gone viral. How evil Leah was to me, and I was like, no, she wasn't.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
And she even at one point sent a picture of me out of makeup talking to her on the set when we were shooting the enchantment scene, and says, "Look, I wasn't always mean to you." I was like, "You were never not mean to me. You were never mean to me. It's just trouble being stirred up by it's not yellow journalism, but the tabloids, and so." Every time
they love trouble
Yeah.
self papers,
That's the
Yeah.
that's the worst part of it.
Yeah.
they love controversy.
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
Well, I mean, I'm pleased to know that despite all of that, you had a positive experience, and even more pleasingly, the legacy of it for you seems to be quite a warm one. So that's good to hear.
The real treat for me is being embraced by the fans. I've the owner of London Film and Comic Con has brought me over to Collector Mania and to the London show several times. Wonderful cast reunions. In fact, we did in 2015. We had 11 of the cast members, and one of the crew members even came and sat in on our panel from the audience. It was really fantastic because you had a room of 5,000 fans just in ecstasies. The year earlier that year, when I ran into the owner of the show at the Gallifrey One, the Doctor Who show, he was like, "Jeffrey, we love having you over. How can I get Mike to come to a reunion? I'd like to host one." And I said, "Give his charity the same money you're going to give him, or do some fundraising or something like that."
Yeah.
So sure enough, he got a replica Gibson guitar, had us all sign it, auctioned it off, raised a bunch of money, and that was the first show that Michael J. Fox did. And he's been doing them ever since, when he can, when he's
fantastic,
hasn't fallen and broken a bone or something. But I don't know if he's going to do a lot more overseas. I think travel's pretty hard on him.
Yeah, I can
In
imagine.
2015, I produced with my wife a fundraiser for the Foundation for Parkinson's Research to raise money, and it was a Back to the Future cruise, and I had 6 of the cast and crew on board a Caribbean ride, and we had about 50 fans come and have the time of their life, and we even had our own Enchantment Under the Sea dance the last night, where I put a band together called Mr. Fusion. We had Harry Waters Jr.,
That's lovely.
Marvin Berry singing, and Don Fola, Mayor Goldie Wilson on bass, and I played guitar, and Mark McClure, Dave McFly was on drums. And we did the songs pretty well from the films, and the people were just in ecstasies. And we combined forces with the Star Trek crews. So that was cool to have Vaughn Armstrong, who was in like 8 of the different series of Star Trek, sit in with us playing harp on Power of Love. It was cool.
Man, that crew sounds amazing.
Raising money for Mike's charity, but Mike couldn't go on the sea. He can't do.
Yeah, of course.
Well, Jeff, just want to roll back to the set, I guess, on Back to the Future a little bit. I'm a bit curious, actually, like for I guess like for us, where we read about the film and we from books and what we see on YouTube and wherever else we get the information from, and like it always seemed like the set was quite detailed. It looked really detailed from the pictures that we've seen in books or whatever. But I mean, how far did that detail go that you saw when you were there?
It was incredible. It was absolutely stunning. I wasn't in a lot of the exteriors, especially in 2015, but I was able to go and visit. Example, I brought my nephew, who was visiting out from Oklahoma, to the town square during the hoverboard shooting. That scene, and I remember introducing my nephew Sam to Mike, and Mike saying, "Hey, I just named my kid Sam." I was like, and my 9-year-old nephew just beaming, and while they were chatting, I was digging the details of the Cafe 80s and the colors and the incredible futuristic set art direction that 2015 Town Square had. And then in the McFly household of 2015, the art direction within an inch of its life, things that never made it to camera, would have blown your mind. The Edward Iath, I'm not going to say his last name right, Iath, who designed the Ortholev. He designed a lot of the different, the hydrometer for the pizza and so on and so forth. There are a lot of little devices all throughout the McFly home, and I want to say maybe 65-70% of them made it to the screen, but there's still this large amount of items that did not, that were either just in shots that were cut or hidden away, so they never got screen time. But they obviously invested a great deal. We know that the cars, of course, were well thought of. What would it be like in the future? Well, we'd probably have old looking cars that were retrofitted so they could fly, and that's genius. There's so many beautiful things that the production embraced, and the town was a character. And then I'm very close friends with Dean Cundy, and talking with Dean about how he also wanted the lighting to create that character with a different time period. So he actually used different design, lighting, and filters to create the essence of the 50s and of the 85 and then 2015. Paid a lot of close attention to that. And just watching and being there while Bob Zemeckis' crew were thinking, one step ahead of him, or jumping to whatever problem needed to be solved. It was like a well-oiled machine. I remember Zemeckis saying, "Is there any way that we don't have to get him down from the Ortholev for every take in between? It's taking a long time." And I was like, "Yeah, it's probably $50,000 a minute here on this set." And so the guys from ILM, who were my handlers, immediately went to work, and they got a ladder and put a board on it like this. And whenever we cut from a take, they'd say, "Jeffrey, do a sit up," and I'd do a sit up, and they'd slide the ladder underneath me, and I'd glide back down, and everyone would go have a coffee break while I'm twiddling my thumbs all alone there on the set.
Nice.
That's great.
You definitely weren't paid enough. So
I'll send you a copy of that photo so you can add it to your
Oh,
Amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, it's
Amazing.
brilliant.
So, I mean, I imagine that level of like detail and set design. I mean, compared to films nowadays, I think that must probably serve as not just something for audiences to enjoy, but for an actor, it's quite a nice like an aid and assist in terms of your performance to have that level of immersion in your surroundings and not it be
Yes,
a green screen.
and I love how hard, and even though everyone's working their butts off, they're really enjoying themselves.
That's good.
Joanna, has gone on to get the Academy Award for Lincoln and for her costumes and the detail that she came up with the fabrics, the futuristic fabrics, and the fantastic stuff that you never see up close. Really were remarkable. Or Rick Carter, who has been the production designer on the Avatar films, and we were working with the top folk in Hollywood at the time. My makeup crew, made up of legends. Marvin Westmore of the Westmore family are legendary. Kenny Myers and Mike Mills from Beetlejuice and Nancy Vosta. There were just even Zoltan and his wife, who got the Academy Award for Mask, came in to help apply the makeup when Tom, Mike, Leah, and I all needed to be in the heavy makeup. They needed all hands on deck, to apply prosthetics for 4 hours, another hour at the end of the day to take them off. So,
Of course.
working with legends, working with people who are on top of their games, that is a thrill for me. And then on top of it, we were working with a camera, the VistaGlide, a program called the Tondro, which ran the dolly for the first time, this computer harmonized setup program, along with the VistaGlide that was used for the first time on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, that Zemeckis had shot just before this film. They didn't know if it was going to work, but they thought it would because the camera was actually splicing the film inside the camera. So Mike could play, or Tom could play, multiple characters. And everything had to be very carefully choreographed or blocked. And then once it was set, take after take, we could not vary from those moves because the camera was doing the editing inside it. And so we had to hit those marks very precisely. And you might have heard that during one of our nights off, we had an earthquake. And everything, even though it was locked down because it got shooken up, Zemeckis thought we were going to have to start from scratch on that scene where at the dinner table with the iced tea being passed. But luckily, they made it work. A good director always knows to get other footage so you can cut away in the editing.
Yeah.
Anyway, great storytelling, and watching Zemeckis in action. He didn't do a lot of directing of the acting. I think he casts very well and very capable actors. I remember Mike at one point, Michael J. Fox, I think it was one of the first actors I ever saw who wasn't directing the film, call cut himself. When he called cut after this one
Wow.
delivery, he said, cut. I didn't even believe that myself. And Zemeckis isn't going to argue with that. Of course, Zemeckis might be like, don't step on my feet. But he didn't. And they just did it again, and they got it. Mike's a consummate pro. But to see Zemeckis solve problems, when the shade is pulled and there is a brick wall where there's projected panoramic scene, pastoral scene is where the window is. We couldn't get that not to show the special effect of the slide projector flickering or whatever. And I think it was about 3:30 in the morning. We'd been there for 20 hours or more. And Zemeckis said, Leah, oh no, first he sent us to second dinner at 3 in the morning. When we came back, Bob Z said, Leah, how about facing the camera as you pull the shade down, say your line, that way we'll get the flicker of the slide projector covered, and you pull the shade up all at the same time, and that should take care of it. And it did. We got it in that one take, and finally we could go home. But it took 20 hours to get there.
Oh.
That's
No,
bonkers.
he was really great in figuring out the problems. That's what he seemed to do well, and really trust his crew and trust his cast, and that was very cool. A few times, I tried things out. There's deleted. I have some stills from it, but I don't have any of the footage. Fruit, please, and the thing came down from the ceiling in the kitchen. Uh, Lorraine says to Marlene, well, Michael in drag, as my transgender daughter, anyway, granddaughter, give your granddad a piece of fruit, and she gives me a banana, and I tried this improvised eating a banana upside down, and the peel kept slapping me in the face. It was a funny bit. It didn't stay in the film, but I didn't get a lot of time to develop things, which I think I could have as an actor. I love improvising and supporting as I can. There was, as you can see in the bonus material, the scene pizza. I did my little tribute to Crispin, where when Lorraine, pulls out that pizza in 4 seconds and puts it down and says, "George, rotate your axis for pizza. It's bad for your digestion to eat upside down." So I did my golf swing. And went, okay, 4, as I'm being turned. There's a crew member spinning me on the other side of the set, because I'm in a body cast with a pole running through the set with a wheel on it to do that spin. But it didn't stay in the film, but it's interesting to see in the bonus material. It's not color corrected or anything, but go look for it. It's more comedy I get to do, and the Crispin laugh.
So you had to replicate some iconic scenes as George. How much of a challenge was that for you?
It was very challenging because it had to be very precise. We were, as time travel, your time travel isn't going to be believed by the audience if things are different. You've seen these comparison videos that people who have got too much time on their hands was like, well, this is slightly different from this version, and and where is that? And look at the clock; it's a different. Whatever. Or no, see, the Twin Towers are represented. No, conspiracy. But we wanted to obviously do our best job, and we needed to accurately recreate those scenes, even though you were going to see them now from the different perspective of Marty in part 2.
Yeah.
Who's stuck in Principal Strickland's office searching for the almanac. When you look through the window and you see George come out to the car and say, "Hey, you get your damn hands," that's me. Or when you see Biff being knocked out or Lorraine jumping on Biff's back while he's twisting George's arm, that's me. And for many, many years, most people who see that film don't realize that. And they needed, of course, the advent of computers to scrutinize and blow up the shots and say, "Oh gosh, look at the makeup. That's weird." And it all has come, of course, to light again because, of Crispin's suit. The Screen Actors Guild came up with a ruling that, producers cannot use another actor's likeness without their or their estate's approval, which I'm totally for. I worked, as I mentioned, these characters at Universal, and they always paid the licensing for me to play those characters. And I always figured they had the licensing covered for my makeup. Little did I know they didn't. But it's good because now that whole mishigas has come to light again because of the advent of AI and actors having their likenesses used without their permission in perpetuity. And that's scary. That's a lot of
terrifying
potential money that my family of actors are going to lose. And the Screen Actors Guild in this new contract, which, as you know, the strike has just ended, and we still are going to vote whether or not to carry on with what they've negotiated. It's precarious still. They say they got some guardrails with AI, but there's no real hard language or to give the actors an advantage. The producers still have a huge advantage. And as long as you have hungry actors that are not union, they're going to get away with God knows what.
Yeah.
But it's the new paradigm. It's the advent of technology in our times.
Fun.
Yeah.
Times.
Yeah, I mean, we got past home video, right? That was maybe the last big serious thing was residuals on home videos, right?
Yeah, there are films. I've done a few films where I co-star or support with Chris Lloyd in the lead. One called The Chateau Moreau, another one called The Boat Builder, and it's great to have worked with Chris again. But that first one, The Chateau Moreau, for over 10 years has been regularly streaming on Family Channel, Hallmark Channel, Lifetime Channel, and I've never seen a residual from it. Not a penny.
Wow. Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Bonkers. Yeah.
And
Maybe it's not
these execs are wondering why you're striking. Ugh, it's sickening.
I try to stick the union on them and say, what's going on with that? And they say, oh, we'll look into it. So that was 4 years ago.
You're still waiting.
You guys did you have a show called Saved by the Bell in the UK?
Oh,
yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, we know you're in it.
Yeah.
There
Wow.
There we are.
The high geek, the speeches guru.
Oh, the high geek.
Oh, hallmark of my career. Here's a shot of me, innocent, dim-witted Pale Rider Teddy Conway and Pale Rider.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That was fun. So yeah, I'll send some photos. When I was a hot items, and when I screen tested for the lead in War Games, I had my hair even longer than it is now. When I was, in my early 20s, liked having long hair. So I'm getting back to it. My wife likes it too. She's not complaining.
Oh, so you were head to head with Matthew Broderick for War Games?
Not necessarily head to head, although Martin Brest, the original director, had told my agent, who had just come out of William Morris in New York, that I was his favorite for the role of David. But I screen tested coming in from a cattle call where they look at hundreds of would-be actors for that part at a time. And as far as I know, after they had the open call in New York, LA, San Francisco, Seattle, and Chicago, I think I was the only one to get a screen test from those open calls. The other fellows they tested the same day that I tested were Eric Stoltz and Dana Carvey, Brian Backer, John Stockwell.
Wow.
There were 6 of us who tested with Ali Sheedy that day. Now,
Wow.
many years later, I found out that Ali Sheedy and Eric Stoltz were living together at the time, and she was kind of playing against us and really rooting for him, I think. But nonetheless, I didn't get that. And about a year later, I was asked to screen test for Lady Hawk because I guess Matthew was asking too much money. I think they wanted him, but they were going to test me and another actor on the East Coast to try to see if we would step in. And since I had done plenty of Shakespeare and Renaissance fairs and such, I really was looking forward to doing that medieval part. But Matthew came down in his price, obviously.
Yes. It's a fascinating what if exercise, that one.
Yeah.
Jeff, we're getting to the end of our questions, so but there is one that I'm quite intrigued about, and we just wondered if you knew of any plans that might be in place to celebrate Back to the Future 2's 35th anniversary next year.
I am in talks with a possible event in, actually a couple of different events in Spain.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm hoping to talk with folk down in Australia who may be interested in a reunion. So nothing definite. I may be picking up the reins on a celebration of Back to the Future Part 3 that we've helped produce, which is called Back to 1885. Now we're going to change the name because the original producers of that have retired. But since we're in the area where Back to the Future Part 3 was shot, it makes sense that we're part of the production team to keep that going. And it's a fundraiser for Michael J. Fox's Foundation for Parkinson's Research.
That's such a lovely thing to do.
That's nice.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
nice.
We've had, 100 plus folk come from around the world to play Old West. And
Wow.
we had screenings of the films and a red carpet gala where we had members of the cast and crew come and speak, and it was really fun, and it's immersive. Everyone gets to dress up, and we had a Hill Valley Festival. It was really a great time. So knock on wood, we'll get that one happening again next year as well. Just stay tuned to backtothefuture.com, and there's an events page where announcements like Chris Lloyd's at German Comic-Con this coming weekend. Kevin Pike's joining him, and he was just at the Traveling Back to the Future Museum, which was in Milan, that I was originally going to be doing, but things got complicated with the negotiations. But nonetheless, there will be plenty of events, I'm sure, celebrating the 35th anniversary of Back to the Future Part 2 next year, and then the following year, the 40th anniversary of the first film and the trilogy.
It's crazy.
That's
Crazy,
nuts.
isn't it?
Oh my god.
Just those anniversaries. It's bananas, isn't it?
I've really been a fan of.
It's nice to see the love of the trilogy just carry on generation to generation. It's really wonderful. There's a lot of great things that those films have that I think are missing in a lot of films. There's no sense of seediness, except for the evil Biff Tannen work or Buford Tannen's work, but it's so playful and such a ride and such a romp. Keeps giving.
I do like the fact that it feels like it's a trilogy of films that can't be touched, like from remakes and reboots and things like that, because I think no one could be brave enough to do that.
Yeah, and the Bobs have said as long as they're alive, they don't want to. But the part 4 is probably the musical. It's did very well up there in Manchester and then London and now on Broadway, and it's a lot of fun. I got to see it while in London, and it was really fun.
Yeah, some friends of mine have seen it, and they told me to just go and give it a chance. Now,
it's really
Back to the Future films have been a constant comfort blanket since I was a young kid, and I'm very cautious about it. But now I've got confirmation from you that it's just fun, and I've now got an interest to check it out now.
Yeah,
but the films have always been with me, and that should be. You vouched for that corner, and now I think
as far as endorsements go, Chris, this is a pretty good one.
This is up there. This is way up there.
Yeah, don't trust your friends, but trust Jeffrey Weissman.
Absolutely.
Well, of course, my friends are my friends. We're actually talking to George McFly here. One of the Georges.
It was really thrilling to be sitting next to Christopher Lloyd while watching it, and seeing his reaction.
Oh wow!
And other cast members that we were in town for the Comic-Con, and it was really rewarding to see it done well. And you won't regret it.
I was
amazing.
When I went to see it a couple of months ago. The only thing I think I was apprehensive about was the musical numbers within the show and how that would relate to the story and the Back to the Future in on itself. But I think the songs worked really well in there as well. So it was really good. Who hasn't asked a question? I've got one more question, I think, about some of your TV shows, but
the shark from Jaws 19 terrified me as a child. Did you meet that shark, and was he an asshole? I'm kind of...
Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors, babe. He's playing a role. He's really
okay. He's a nice guy?
He's a gentle giant. He's just don't get on his wrong side. That's all.
Okay, all right, fair.
Still looks fake though.
Still looks fake. There's so many fun jokes, and still people are finding new things, little tiny bits. And did you see that this tower? That's the most recent one. This tower that's in part 3 in the Old West shows up in part 2 in 2015 Town Square. Have you seen that one recently? That meme?
Huh.
No.
Huh.
No, I have to go back.
Now we're going to go on a meme rabbit hole now, aren't we? So, shit. That's a new one.
I'll see you down that rabbit hole. So
we were just quite interested in some of the TV that you did, like you mentioned earlier, about Max Headroom and your Saved by the Bell experiences. Like, were they fun projects to work on?
Sure. I've been very fortunate. The Max Headroom one, as I mentioned, was really fun because I was a fan already, and to be there, with Chris and Amanda and Jeffrey, and to be part of that, really kind of the trendiest show at the time, was really a thrill. And I didn't have a lot to do on it, but it was really a thrill. And on top of it, as I mentioned, Jeffrey Tambor and the line producer, I believe it was, we had all gone to San Francisco State University and had the same professor who had a very distinct voice, who spoke like this and would always give you, "You're doing fine. Let me take you out for a drink after rehearsal tonight." He was a really gracious, supportive, wonderful professor to have, and we all adored him. And we were coming back from lunch, and we all had realized this, and all three of us were doing our impressions of this man and having a blast. And about a couple of minutes into this, we looked around, and the entire cast and crew were watching us, and that was very fun. The other shows that I did, as I mentioned, the Scarecrow and Mrs. King was really lovely because I was that was my first guest star role, and that episode, in fact, where I played Scotty, the parking lot attendant would-be filmmaker who gets kidnapped. That episode became the second highest rated episode of the series, and they were rumoring that my character would come back as recurring, which never took place. But as I mentioned, in the 40th anniversary get together, I got to reprise the role. I waited 40 years in a new episode that was written by the fans, which was really fun. And then here's a shot with me with Dick Van Dyke doing our Stanley Laurel impression. I guest started on his series Diagnosis Murder, and I had found, when I was in fact going to university thrift shopping, an alpaca golf sweater with a Dick Van Dyke label on it. So I brought it to the set with me to show Dick and his assistant. I showed it to her, and she showed it to Dick, and she brought it back. And a few minutes later, Dick found me and said, "Were you the guy with the sweater?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I forgot completely. I'd lent my name to those people in 1962 or whatever it was." And that broke the ice because I had played Stanley Laurel and was friends with his daughter, Lois Laurel. Wow. I had stories to share with Dick, and he was very good friends with Stanley Laurel. And so we spent the rest of the day, when we weren't in front of the camera, just sitting and telling stories. His stories of his first night having dinner with Buster and Eleanor Keaton is just remarkable. He's got a lot of wonderful, wonderful stories. And so that was a real thrill for me. Other TV shows that I've been on have been, that Saved by the Bell was a hoot. All the kids were very nice. God rest Dustin. He was a sweetheart of a kid. And the only complaint I had on that one was Casey Kasem kind of undermined a gag I had. He was the other guest star, and I already had the buck teeth and the thick glasses to play the nerd guru, but I wanted to do the fright wig of my hair standing straight up, but revealed after I take off my fez. Now Casey's Muslim, and he thought that me wearing the fez was dishonorable, insulting to his religion. So the producer made me lose the fez. And I was like, darn it, there was a whole reveal of the hair standing up.
Mhm.
I was just doing it for the laugh, not to meaning to insult Islam at all. But nonetheless,
Yeah.
I ended up making the magic retainer to bring him good luck, to bring Screech good luck, come out of a spittoon, which was on, and just pivoted. And it was a fun set to work on, very silly. And I still get, I don't know, $5 a year, $10 a year residuals from that.
Hey,
Wow.
nice.
Wow.
Nice.
That is something else.
I can almost buy a pint.
Yeah.
I think the Man Show was definitely a surprise to me. That was one I wasn't aware of. I know you had a guest appearance in that. Didn't you?
Oh yes. I was the sensitive one in the Assholics Anonymous. Yeah, I got to cry. It was funny on that one. There was in the script, it called for my character to actually cry, so they could get a close up of the tear coming down his cheek after he's being abused by the other assholes. And I said to the director, he said, I knew we were going to come in for my close up for the tear, and I heard the director call for glycerin. I was like, I'm working up the tears. I can cry. And he goes, no, there's no time for that. I said, but I can cry on cue. Look at Pale Rider. I had to cry on cue for that. So I'm sorry to say, but that tear in that episode of Man Show is glycerin. It's not real.
Oh, they don't appreciate the art.
No.
I think I was crying because I had to use the glycerin.
Yeah, look at it that way.
What I found quite interesting when I was researching was you had played Charlie Chaplin, Stan Laurel, and Groucho Marx. Now, was that a very almost vaudevillian kind of performance? Was it very physically demanding, or was it? Yeah, I was just very, very interested because I couldn't find any footage.
I've always leaned towards physical work, physical comedy. In Pale Rider, Clint let me do something that reoccurred. My character was kind of a half-wit innocent, and whenever anything exciting happened, his feet would go out from under him, and I'd fall on my butt. And I think I did that maybe 3 or 4 times, and Clint always said it was okay and thought it was funny, but none of it stayed in the film. I started playing, as I mentioned, Stanley Laurel in '87. The actor who was playing Oliver Hardy had lost his previous Stan Laurel partner, had been fired. And I remember watching Laurel and Hardy as a kid, but I didn't remember how to portray him correctly. And I was doing everything wrong on my audition, but the actor playing Oliver Hardy, his name was Beavis, told the manager in charge of hiring that he knew my talent. He had seen me play Mercutio in a production of Romeo and Juliet, and he says, this guy's got talent, I'll train him. And within a couple of weeks, I was doing a passable Stanley Laurel. I remember 2 weeks in, an older African-American woman came shuffling up to us. We're working in the park, and she said, I always wanted to meet you two before I died.
Oh,
Oh boy.
What did I get myself into? What is this job?
That crap.
I learned to really embrace it and love it. Getting Stanley Laurel's physicalizations. I took the heels off the bottom of my shoes to walk flat-footed like he did. The head scratch, the hair scratch that he got from, I think it was Dan Leno, an old music hall performer. When he was growing up, Stanley was in the theater all the time. His father was a producer, so he got to see the greats upon the boards, Little Titch and Dan Leno and others, and he would steal from them to put his characters together. as well as Charlie Chaplin did the same. He stole from Max Linder and other great performers. So there really isn't anything new. You steal from the greats and hopefully make it your own and do them justice and tribute. And that, in addition to being trained by a gentleman who knew old films, silent comedians, and really had loved them since he was a child, he really helped me get into shape and study. And we put together warm-up shows. I'll send you a link where I'm on YouTube on a 105-degree day, warming up 3,500 people in the audience for the Western Stunt Show at Universal as Charlie Chaplin. As Laurel and Hardy, we used to warm up the audience for the animal actors. And then we do promote the studio on tours. I toured Canada and would go to Switzerland and England and various other places as the boys and create mayhem wherever we went, And then I did a tour of Australia as Groucho Marx. And really, I'd throw myself into the characters and try to do them justice. I can't stand to see imitators, lookalikes that just stand there or do anything to honor what these great artists have done before. And in a way, that's why I probably got the job on Back to the Future, because wanted to honor Crispin's work and also at the same time kind of be the cohesive glue for the story, so most people don't realize that he was not there.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting paid too.
Yeah. That's so fascinating to listen to that story.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been fascinated too. I got fascinated in the arm. I scratched it. It got infected.
Really?
Sorry, that's a Chico Marx joke. Sorry.
Well, I think I can safely say for all of us, I think we could just sit here and ask you questions all night long. But obviously, that's not the case. We can do that, but we'll let you get on with your day, Jeff. So I just want to say thank you very much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Any of your listeners or viewers want to get an autographed picture for the fan in your life of Back to the Future, you can write me through my website, jeffreyweissman.com, or via X, Twitter, at Jeff, Jef, just one F, Weissman, Weissman, or on Instagram at Jeffrey J. Weissman, or where else? On Facebook, Jeffrey Weissman Actor. Got a few films in post-production, and have me back on, and I'll talk about them.
Just one last question. I wondered if you had a holiday message for our listeners. That says, some of them might be listening on Christmas Day.
Oh, that would be wonderful. Well, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Solstice, whatever you celebrate. Happy Hanukkah. I'm just honored that you all, Chris, Jason, Steve, Rich, asked me to be on, and I'd have me back. I'll talk about other projects, and I have a whole litany of stage credits that we haven't even touched on.
Sure,
that'd be amazing.
Yeah,
fantastic.
And the living history stuff.
Yes,
I've been playing Mark Twain a lot lately.
Oh, wow,
that's cool.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah.
I'll send you a photo.
Truly, the honor is ours, and the fact that you've come so prepared with all of these photographs is we're really, really grateful. Thank you, Jason. You're gonna.
I brought enough for everyone.
That's a dehydrated pizza foil, isn't it?
Yes.
No way.
There's pizza in there, so I'll sign those for fans too. I got to make money somehow.
I'm just waiting for someone to pop in. You sure know how to hydrate a pizza?
I've got stories of that scene in particular, so have me back on. I'll tell you.
Of course, we will. We will.
Absolutely. hope you all enjoyed our interview with Jeffrey, and we just want to express our thanks to him once again for sharing some of his spare time with us and for giving us all those amazing stories. He is an absolute legend, not only from his acting days, but also on how open he is to the Back to the Future community, always having time for the fans just like he did for us today. I also want to take this time to thank you, yes you, who's listening right now, for all the support you've shown us throughout the year. We can't express how grateful we are that you choose to spend some of your time listening to our rambles, whether on a weekly basis or if it's just this episode. We really, really appreciate you. But all that's left to do on this episode is get the guys to say a festive goodbye to you all. Rich.
Shit, you put me on the spot. Merry Christmas, one and all, or if you celebrate other, other holidays. You got me, caught me off guard there.
On purpose.
Just want to assure you all that there is no war on Christmas. Everyone can say Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays. Starbucks isn't trying to stop it. Don't believe what you read. Don't be a mug. Merry Christmas, one and all. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Solstice. All that stuff. So there you go. I've done rambling now.
That was amazing.
Good job. Good job, dude.
Chris?
Nice try, but my head was built with paradox absorbing crumple zones.
Merry Christmas.
Futurama, anybody? Evil robot Santa.
Oh, yes. That's right.
Damn it.
'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house, not a creature was stirring except the 4 assholes coming in the rear in a standard 2x2 cover formation.
That's brilliant. Okay. Winner.
We stand judged and...
Well, considering I gave you no warning for that, that was brilliant, Steve. Well done. Well, it's brilliant from all of you. Well done. So, listen, all that's left to say is that me, Rich, Chris, and Steve wish you all an extremely Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And as Rich said, if you don't celebrate Christmas, we hope you're just having an enjoyable break from everything. My name has been Jason, and we'll see you all in the new year. But until then, take care. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
What's wrong with Wolfie? I can hear him barking.